Hey everybody, Igor here, and I want to welcome you back to this next step on your journey to a better life. Hey guys, again, as usually, I'm thrilled and excited to see you here because that only means you made the decision to continue the course and take those steps towards your better life. That's why I'm always excited, always smiling, and I want to, spread this energy, and I hope, you have the same energy, the same readiness within you to get on the next step. Before that though, as usually, a little bit of housekeeping item. Basically, we conclude a little bit and we remember what we learned during our last step. And to conclude on that, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Did you have a chance to experiment with this powerful PACE system? Have you used it already? Have you paced yourself, if I can say that, right? If it's grammatically correct, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. Have you had the chance to pace yourself? Have you done that? Have you figured out that combination of those letters in that pace? What is your pace right now at the moment? And then, according to the homework which I gave you, have you then understood whether that combination now plays the most kind of effective and efficient role in you understanding those four different types and having them in that particular sequence in order for you to be the most efficient and effective on getting those outcomes and results which you want out of life? Have you done that? I hope you've done, and I hope you now know what kind of combination you need, and therefore you hopefully already created the plan how will you strengthen those other four different personality types, or three, which you need to strengthen in order to actually replace them with each other and switch them with each other and get this perfect combination for yourself, to succeed in life and be the master in interaction with everyone and getting connected with everyone around you. I hope you've done that, and I'm thrilled and excited about you to having this beautiful and powerful tool in your tool belt, right? As we were talking about with you before. Now guys, I mentioned in last step that we will take up on that topic, and I will evolve it, and I will develop more steps based on relationships, based on this support team, support mechanism we all want to build around ourselves, because we already talked to you with you last time that nothing of huge significance was just done without the team. It took the team, and we also were talking about, and I kind of compared our life with the war field, right? And in order to win the whole war, we have to win those individual battles we have, the battles we go through. And obviously, to go through the battles, we need those trench mates, as I call them, right? Those friends, those allies, those people who will support us and become that supporting system. And now we kind of learn how to read people better. We also learn how to understand ourselves better. We then learn how to adapt to the environment we are in order to kind of, be more likable to others, and at the same time show ourselves sincerely and kind of use those four different personalities sincerely in order to be more adaptable to any environment, social environment we are in. We have kind of pumped up that social skill of ours, and now we are ready to go forward. Today, I want to continue on the topic, as I mentioned, and I want to dive deeper. And I want to talk today about the power of self-selected groups and how not, become the someone else's plan, and how to use, which I call convenience bias, how to understand it better and see what kind of role it plays in our life. And I know I dropped at you a lot of science right now, right? With a lot of different words, but don't you worry, we're gonna go through that step, and as we go, you will understand all those definitions, and you will understand what kind of role they play, within this particular topic which we're talking about, by building supporting team around ourselves. And I literally call the step almost the same which I just, already announced it, kind of thing. So officially now, this title and the name of the step is The Power of Self-Selected Groups and How Not to Become someone else's plan. Would you like to not be someone else's plan? Would you like to be like in full control? Would you like to be the creator of your life, not manager of your circumstances? Remember we talked about that. Do you want to be the driver in a driving seat, right? I hope you do. And I also hope that those self-selected group definition, which we're going to go over today, and your knowledge now in introduction to the convenience bias, psychological thing we all have, will help you to be in that driver's seat, will help you to create the communities and those trench mates around yourself in a way they will be able to back you up at any point of your time. They will never and never, betray you, and they will always be behind your back. Okay? All right. Now I want to dive deep into that topic. Let's just do it. So I said I want to talk about self-selected groups and convenience bias. Let's start talking about that. And to explain you better with the examples of what the self-selected groups are and what I mean by that, I want to, take you on the journey which we all had, starting with the time we were born and ending with the time now, like where we are at right now, whatever your age is. And while going on that journey with me, I'm going to be telling you a little bit of my story, but you try to think of your story yourself as you were born and then going for all these years to come where you at right now. And through that journey, I will explain you in a very little detail what the self-selected groups are, why do they so important, how do they impact our life and impact our relationships and interactions with others, and what is the convenience bias and how it comes into the play. Okay? All right. So let's start with our childhood. So we all were born into a family, right? And the family which we have never selected by ourselves, right? It was just given. And just bear with me, guys. Obviously, you might have now different ideas whether it's bad or good. I'm not, implying it's bad or good. I'm just saying it's a fact, right? We were born in a family which we did not select, right? And it's not a good and a bad thing. That's just what happened. The same about our city we were born. The same about our country, right? We were born in a city and a country which we did not select, but we ended up being there and living there for a good amount of our life just because that happened, right? You're with me on that? I hope you are. Next, let's talk about the family. So what the family really is. Well, for me, the family is a group, right? We're getting closer to that self-selected group kind of definition. It's a group of people, right? With their own rules, standards, with their behaviors, attitude, habits, rituals, and things like that, right? Something specific they build for themselves, whether intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter. But that is the group which we were born in. And obviously, when we were kind of growing up, we were following all those rules. We were learning those rules. We were learning those standards. We were understanding what kind of behaviors are beneficial, at least how our parents were showing that and teaching us about that. And what kind of behaviors were not allowed, what the habits and rituals of our parents were, and things like that. Those things kind of rub off on us. Did we want it or not? It happened anyway. And by the way, it not only happened on our conscious level, but it happened on our subconscious level. Our mind was learning, our mind was understanding what are those conditions, what are those criteria of the group is, and why is it worth it to actually learn and kind of digest that criteria and write it down in our hard drive and then run that criteria and program all the time. Okay? So that is the family. Then what happened? Well, then our parents decided themselves. Obviously, they could not, discuss it with us because we were a little too little. We could not make our own decisions yet. And they had decided to teach us something, whatever they thought is useful for us, right? Again, without our control. Then they probably kind of introduced us to people or families which were friends of theirs, right? And we kind of started also interact with those families. And obviously, if they're friends, they probably have and shared the same values, the same standards, with the same understanding, because only people with the same kind of, a bubble around them can interact and love and interact with each other, right? So we kind of picked up something out of that kind of communication and interaction with all those people our parents introduced us with. Next thing what our parents did is they put us into the daycare, right? Again, we did not select this daycare with whatever our parents were, and obviously they were doing best for us. Again, I'm not blaming anyone here, and I'm not saying, guys, it's bad or good. Those are the facts, right? I want to take you on this journey of facts, what happened with us. So we were put in this daycare, and daycare we met what? New people, our potential friends, classmates, and teachers, right? And we learned new rules, new standards, slightly maybe different behaviors which we had to express in order to be, taken seriously, in order to be accepted, and so on and so on and so on. With that, guys, I want to show you that our subconscious all that time were conditioned. It was conditioned by those rules, by those standards, by those rituals, by those habits of those people, of that group which we were a long time part of. And as a result, we have this set, which I call, and we become the part of this self-selected group, and we inherited the whole set of those values, of that ideology from those groups. Mostly we have spent time with and in, okay? And then what happened? At some point of our life, we finally thought that we got to the adulthood, and now we can take and make our decisions ourselves. We were so happy, so excited. Even right now, I want to say, and then we got to the point where we started to make our own decisions. But wait, have we ever started to make our own decisions solely based on our own experiences and the things which we want out of life? When I want to assure you, majority of us have never made such decisions based on this kind of criteria. We started to make our decisions ourselves, that's right. But we were pushed and pulled by the program running on our subconscious level. And all the decisions, all the things which we were going on with on our own, they still were impacted, created, and done out of that understanding of those rules, boundaries, limitations which we inherited out of that group we were a part before, or still are, even though we started to make those decisions. You know where it's all getting us? You understand where I'm going? I'm going with that, towards the explanation, by the way, why 9 people out of 10 who were born in poor family will stay poor their entire life. Just think about these statistics, guys. If 10 people were born and 9 of them were born, and all of them were born in poor family, 9 of those people will live their life as poor, entire life. Now, I got a question for you. Is there any difference between those 9 people who, stayed poor and that one person who, apparently became rich? And rich, by the way, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, mentally, the person overall success. I'm talking about the overall success right now. So what is the difference in between those people? And I want to explain you and answer you. There is no difference. I mean, they all can do all those same things. They have the same opportunities. They have the same people around them they can reach out to. They have everything the same. The only thing they have which plays the crucial role in their choices and decisions is what kind of group they are coming from. And obviously they came from the poor family, and they kept that program, those rules and boundaries, those family patterns which they used to and which they were going through and with their entire life, not entire life, but the whole big piece of their life. And they inherited those rules and limitations, and they kept them as their tool, and they use that tool their entire life, and that tool can only lead to the poverty, not the abundance, not the wealth. You know I'm talking about? That is why poor people, they stay poor. It's just because they inherit that self-selected group's criteria, and then they make all their decisions and get on their journey through their life using only that criteria. They do not expand. They do not try to change. And that is huge. That's why the importance of self-selected groups are so heavy. And by the way, why those people do that, you would ask, right? Like, why is that happening that if we were born in poor family, we stay poor our entire life? It's there where convenience bias comes into the play. What is convenience bias? Well, it's this condition of our psychology where we would rather do things which are convenient first, and then the rest will follow. But first we will do the things which are convenient to us. Now I'm going to ask you, what is more convenient to us? To stay the same we were, the rules and the standards and the behaviors we already used to and we feel comfortable with, or now we need to start changing ourselves, break this old cycle, break that group and get out of it and do something different, which requires maybe sometimes stress, anxiety, feeling of being overwhelmed and getting out of your comfort zone. Obviously, we're gonna choose first what? Convenience. And that convenience bias is so strong that we even ready to live a poor life if we were born in poor family. Now, let me explain why is that happening so. As I said, that family probably have certain patterns, right? Patterns. And they live through certain rules and standards which you also learn. And I want to give the example of mine because I went through that. And if you are following my conversation with you right now, you're probably hopefully trying to imagine your life and you're trying to connect with the dots. What was your journey related to those self-selected group? And some of you, by the way, might be very lucky and you might gotten to the self-selected group which is growing, where all the people trying to go through the healthy lifestyle. They're obsessed with exercising, with the diet, with being wealthy, with learn all the time, the give, contribute, all those good feelings, all good things they do, and therefore you are doing them to become happy and fulfilled. And maybe you're already happy and fulfilled. But again, bear with me. I'm going to introduce you to the things today which might help you to re-evaluate those groups and maybe make them even stronger and maybe join even stronger groups, right? For those who gotten in the group which kind of sucked them in, and then we had struggled to get out of that group, I want to tell you that story, and for everyone, really, a story of mine. So if we're talking about our family, my self-selected group, which I was born into, then my family was as follows. If we're talking about education, then no one really cared about education in my family. As a matter of fact, my mom and my dad, they were dropouts. They dropped out of universities and colleges. And as soon as I started to go to school, like I never remember the time when someone was, cared about my homework. No one was doing my homework with me. No one seemed to care about education, about me actually getting more knowledge and studying, right? That was one thing about the education. Now about the money. We were quite poor family. So I was born into poor family, right? We were kind of, a lot lower than average kind of class. And, my parents would just try to make their ends meet every single month. And that was a huge struggle, right? So I only saw, talking about the money and financial perspective of the whole thing, I only saw one thing. It's never enough of money. But then what I saw, as soon as the money showed up, and it was a very rare occasion, but sometimes my dad would do something extra and we would get extra money. More, money than we needed to cover all the expenses during one particular month. And as soon as the money showed up, they were spent. They were spent on material things. And obviously, of course, when you you live a poor life, you kind of want to have fun a little bit and have an entertainment and kind of have a little easier life for yourself, and then you get money you kind of try to get for yourself, to get that life for yourself, at least for the short period of time. And I understand my parents. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying in what kind of environment I was, growing up in. And therefore, and no one was explaining that me, why someone did that or done that and stuff like that. So I was looking at it from my perspective, and that became kind of my selected group criteria. So I then started my own journey in my life, and what would I do in? Well, at some point, I almost dropped out of my school. Seriously, I didn't do that though. Someone helped me to kind of get my stuff together and then kind of pulled me back into studying. But why did I do that? I thought that was one of the best decisions just because for the decision's sake. But why I was trying to make the decision? Well, the answer is I was conditioned by the group. I was conditioned by my family. I never saw that the education was important. I never saw that someone want me to study. So therefore I thought it's irrelevant. And what is irrelevant, I have to get rid of, right? And from one perspective, it was my decision. But from another, it was conditioned by the environment I was coming out from. You feel how that chain of reactions are happening from your childhood, and then how it's that impacting all your decisions. Again, at some point of my life, finally, I started to learn quite a bit of money, and guess what I did? Based on my story, based on my self-selected group I was born into. You see, by actually understanding the group I am coming from, you now can guess what happened with me when I started to make money. And you guessed right. First, what I started to do, I started just to spend it on material things. Clothing, entertainment, and all that stuff, and just every single penny I would use and I would spend. And I might not guarantee I would behave myself differently if I would have the different rules and I saw different things going on in my family, but I'm sure I was doing that also just because I was conditioned that way. I never was taught of how to save money or multiply money, invest money. I was only taught as so that you can get money and you have to work hard for that. And by the way, this is a very cool thing I learned. But at the same time, as soon as the money showed up, you would not, hold on to them. You just spend them. So that's how I was conditioned, and that's how I was starting to build my life. Obviously, I was not doing it consciously. I was making those decisions consciously, and I thought those are the good decisions, but why did I think so? It's just because my subconscious was controlling me and giving out all that criteria which was applied to the group I was coming from. I hope it's not that confusing for you guys and you started to understand what self-selected group actually is, and how also convenience bias plays the huge role in the whole setup. I'm going to give you a couple more examples. Today's step is going to be about different examples to illustrate you this not that easy but simple topic of self-selected group and convenience bias. Now another example. Now try to think this example out of your life. Let's say you have a friend, right? Or you have someone you know. Have you been in a situation when you ask that person, hey, what do you do for a living? And let's say the person say, well, I am a salesperson in that and that store, okay? Let's just imagine that kind of situation, and I think majority of us have been in that situation. So then you just, ask him another question. Okay, so for how long have been you working here? And some of the people, they would just answer, well, for 40 years. It's like, oh, wow, that's a pretty good, kind of period of time to work in one company. So how did you end up here? And this is the key question, right? How did you end up here? And most of the time, 9 out of 10 of us guys will give, approximately this kind of answer. Well, I have this friend. The key word is friend, right? I have this friend, and at some point of my life, that friend was working here as a salesperson in this store, and the friend actually invited me in. They say they have an opening, and as I'm your friend, I can kind of help you out to get in. I will give you the reference. And what I did? Well, of course, I agreed because there was such a great opportunity. Well, from one point of view, yes, it was a great opportunity. From another point of view, that was too convenient to reject. You know what I'm saying? This is the convenience bias. This is where we can see it playing the huge role in our lives. You see, that person whom we are talking to, this hypothetical person or the real person which you had a conversation like that with, and I had this conversation with that person, and I've been myself that person, guys, right? If you talk to that person, you understand what they have selected, the self-selected group. They selected to stay with this group. They've selected this convenience over the hard work. It was very convenient, right? It's a lot easier just to accept the offer. Don't go through the interviews. Do not prepare for them. Do not go through the hard work. Do not go through the planning process and making decision process, which we have learned recently with you, right? Because it requires hard work. It requires energy. It requires your time. But someone gave us on the platter ready to go offer. Doesn't matter whether it's consistent with our plans, with our goal, but just because it's convenient, we are making that selection. And that selection becomes our entire life. And then after 40 years, I asked that person, how did it all start? And they said that all started with that, friend inviting them. But who is a friend? A friend is the person from your social cycle, from your social group, from your self-selected group. And if that person, you count them as your friend, they probably share the same values, the same rules, they came from the same community, they were born into very similar self-selected group, and the criteria of that self-selected group pretty much matching your criteria of your self-selected group you were born into. And therefore you stuck together with that friend. And as soon as that friend was offering you something by kind of triggering that convenience bias, obviously that friend did it subconsciously, and your subconscious got triggered, got irritated, and say, yes, let's do it, because that is according our criteria of our self-selected group. Let's just do that. And then you end up in one place working the job which you don't love, don't like, you don't tap dance to your work, and so on and so on and so on. The huge chain reaction just because of this one thing happening with your life. That's why poor people stay poor, rich people getting richer, because they are keep going and expanding themselves to the groups, self-selected groups, which will push them up, which will pull them up, which will help them to succeed and accelerate their success, not otherwise. You getting me there? Okay, another last example, and then we get to another point of this particular step. Another example, have you ever had someone, your friend, the stranger, and I had some people like that, and I'm going to give you an example again, whom you would ask, and I asked that person, and I've seen that person working so hard. I've seen that person working all the weekends long and things like that, right? And I was like, oh my God, that person is, workaholic basically. Let me talk to him. And I talked to him and I said, hey, why are you doing all that? Why are you working so hard? Why are you working on the weekends? You would at least take weekends off, take rest, relax, and stuff like that. And that person would say, hey, I cannot do it any other different way. I was like, why? It's just because everyone there does that. Everyone is on top of their game. We have like the team of sharks there in our company, and we all do that. There's such a huge drive. So I cannot do worse than those people. How powerful is that? As soon as you get in the group and you see the qualities of the group, you see the rules, the standards, and you accept them, you start to play by their rules, they pull you up. If you were lower, within your education, within your wealth, within your health, understanding of love, relationships and stuff, and you get in the room of people who have been there, done that, and they experienced it in that, and they can kind of hit you up a little bit, meaning of your temperature. I kind of, compare it with the thermostat. Just remember, imagine you have the room and you have the thermostat set to up to 72 degrees, right? And as soon as the temperature will rise up to 72, the thermostat and all AC kind of system will shut down, because this is the ceiling, right? I apply it to the group, to self-selected group. The self-selected group can be the 72, but you might be the person who really dream to get the outcomes and results out of life, which require the temperature of yours 96, 98, maybe 100 degrees. So if you've gotten in the group where the temperature is limited by 72 degrees, you will never be heated up and pulled up and pushed up to those 96. So you gotta look for the group which is 96. And in that example, that person who got in that workplace, who started to work with all those people, his temperature maybe before starting that job was 72, but the whole room temperature, the company's temperature is 96. So eventually he had two choices: whether leave them because he was uncomfortable of heating himself up, or just go through that break through his fears, break through this hard work hard and being heated up to the 96 degrees, and now he's up to speed like everyone else. And as a result, that person grew. As a result, that person developed, evolved, and now wealthier, healthier maybe, more successful, and with the, wider vision of the whole life. Although before, he might be born into that group which was not like that at all. You see how important is that? To get in the right group, I would even say, or create your own one. We step by step, slowly but surely get to the point of this step, guys. I just want to get you energized and understand and think of your past and understand, what kind of role those self-selected group and this convenience bias played in your life. And with all that, I'm coming to the place where I want to kind of conclude this part of this step. And by conclusion, I mean, what I want to say is, I think our entire world is basically divided in this self-selected group of people with the similar interests, with the similar values, ambitions, visions, rules, standards, behaviors, and then those people go together, lift themselves up or pull themselves down, depending on the temperature of the group, right? The type of that group. One more example, by the way, religion. If we're talking now on a scale of the whole world, we have different kind of religions, right? Like we have Christians, we have Catholics, we have Orthodox, and we have many others, right? And what are those groups all about? The religion, it's the group of people with the same ideology, with the same values, with the same rules and standards, and they try to live their lives through those ideologies, through those rules, with those standards. They believe in them and they kind of multiply them. So that is also self-selected group. So when you're thinking about self-selected group, I suggest you to think on a scale. Not only, group where I was born in, which is my family, not only my friends, not only department I'm working in at my company, but company itself, but the city I live, the country I live in. That is also self-selected group, guys. And that selected group you are in, or multiple groups you are in, will determine your success. And doesn't matter whether you want it or not, it will determine your success. Because as I mentioned, if you want to achieve something significant and you want to build out the dream life, the life of your dreams, which you have built during this step where we have designed and created design system for yourself, you designed your dream life. If you wanted to achieve that, you gotta have trench, mates besides you. You gotta have those people beside you, and you gotta build that self-selected group which will not stand that convenience bias, which will not stay on the same level, which will always grow, which will always improve, and will always push you and sometimes pull you up. That is why it's that important. Now you're probably trying to figure it out. Okay, what is your suggestion, Igor? What do we do now? Because we kind of took a look, and yes, those groups maybe not that perfect for us, and we would like to change the group or maybe create the group. Well, my answer is obviously it's possible. If some of you is asking whether it's possible to change something now, it's always possible to make a change at any point of your time. Let's be clear on that, okay? And second of all, yes, we get into the point, guys, we're gonna go through two options which you have. And I suggest you use both of those options. What are those options all about? Well, the first option is you gotta switch the groups. You gotta join new groups. This is the first option what you have. You gotta leave existing ones, the current ones which pull you down, and you gotta stick to those ones which can lift you up. This is your first option. Your second option is to create your own group, own self-selected group, all right? And then be the king in that group. And that's how you actually, by the way, making sure you're not someone else's plan, but that is your plan, that is your group. And we're going to be covering these two options, going further down the line to this step. Before we cover those options though, two of them, I want to cover two other points which are very crucial in understanding those two options we're going to be, exploring and discovering with you. So two things I want you to understand and know. The first one, why is that so hard for us to leave a group we are a part of right now and join some other groups or create our own? Why is that so hard? Well, you know already the answer, at least one answer, right? It's convenience bias. It's our psychology. We are doing what is convenient first, and then we do the rest. But now we have figured out how to overcome this convenience bias, right? By getting actually to that other group. So what still can hold us back? And it has to do with the topic which you're already familiar with. It has to do with our internal fears, guys. Fears. Remember, during one of our steps, we were going through what are the fears. What are the two, major fears majority of us have. And they kind of born into us. They are with us all the time. And those two fears are the fear of, do you remember? Not being loved or lose the love. And second, the fear of being judged. Two types of fears almost all of us experience. Now, let's apply those fears to that situation, to that kind of switching the group process, and what kind of fears, and not what kind of, but how, what kind of role these fears play in that process. Well, now, to imagine those fears and why do they being triggered and by what they do being triggered, just think about it. You are the part of the group. The starting point of your life was the group of your what? Family, right? This is your blood. Blood is thicker than water, obviously. You have very tight emotional connection with the group, right? And you obviously expect the group to love you. You obviously have probably already earned some, confidence within this group. You also earned this credibility within this group. And now, as soon as you're trying to get out of that group and maybe join the other, even the thought scares you the whole lot. Why? Because that thought triggers those two fears. You are afraid that that group, members of this group, members of your family, your friends, your very close people, they will stop loving you just because you kind of abandoning them. But you're not doing that, obviously. You're just probably going to spend maybe a little bit less time with them and more time with the group, which kind of can lift you up and boost you up and accelerate you, right? But you're not abandoning them, but your subconscious, tells you different story. That tells you they're going to abandon you, guys. You're going to be alone. They're going to stop loving you. This is another fear. And those fears let us down. We cannot break through them. And therefore, we stay in one line. We stay in one level. Again, that is the explanation why poor people stay poor and why richer getting richer. Because they have that criteria, that momentum that they have and had at some point of their life, and they took off and they just go up. Okay? So it's, as I said, it's very important to understand that. But you already equipped with that. We went through with that. We learned how to get yourself into the peak state, because peak state will help you to break through those fears. So I'm not worried about that for you. But in case you talk to someone, you want to share this experience with someone, just make sure you talk about the fears as well, because that is the shield which actually are standing on the way of ours to break through and get to join some other groups, some other people, and get to know other people and start that change, that shift from one kind of self-selected group to another. Okay? This is one point of what I wanted to cover. Another point, the second point, before we get to the options, which I wanted to cover, which is very important, and it's going to be, by the way, the part of your homework. We have to first, before we go and join some groups, or we created our group, our own group, we gotta come up with the criteria we want that group to have, right? The criteria. Remember I said in my family, the criteria. What was the criteria? Well, the criteria was we don't maybe necessarily respect education, we don't pay attention to education, we don't save money, we don't multiply money. That is kind of criteria of that group. The opposite criteria might be we learn how to earn money. As soon as we earn money, we save money. As soon as we save money, we learn how to multiply money, and then we multiply money. Let's say some of your parents were like that and you learned that, and now it's within you, right? So that is the criteria which you need to literally list for yourself. But don't you worry, you actually already, all of you who goes through that course, all of you already have that criteria ready to go. You know why? Because basically that is criteria what you want out of that group. How do you want that group to help you? What do you think that group needs to help you with in order you succeed in life, in order to accelerate your success, in order for you to find that shortcut and shave off years and years of learning curve and trials and errors in order to get to those outcomes and results. That's what you have, come up with yourself. But we have already created that. Those are the things what you want. And we have created the list. And obviously, if you've done your homework after that step where we have going through the life design and system, then now you know the list of all the things which you want out of life. So I suggest you combine all those things, you get them out from that homework and put it on a list. And this is the list of the things what you want. If you decide so, and sometimes I do so, I kind of rephrase a little bit those things because they kind of put into the sentence as I want that, but now you have to kind of transform them. What are the criteria? What kind of description of what the thing I want should be within the group so the group can help me with that thing, right? And I just take a list and that becomes my criteria. And then I'm going to be using the criteria now to select the groups I want to be in and also to create the group of my own with all that criteria. And I'm going to explain you how to do that. Before that though, let's just take and see and look at a couple of examples of what kind of criteria you might select. And let's go through, wide range of our core pillars of our life and make this couple of examples so you kind of, grasp that material and it settles in your head. So let's take your health. And let's say you want to be healthier. Now I want to ask you, what would be the good thing? Do you want to hang out with people who are obese, who eat junk food every single day, who does not work out and exercising whatsoever, lies on the couch and just watches TV and maybe not even going to work? Do you want to be the part of that group while you're trying to get your life healthier, while you're trying to improve your health? Or you want to hang out with people who actually exercise, 6 times a week, who are eating healthy, who are obsessed with their health, and not only maybe physical health, but mental, emotional, and so on and so on and so on. Would you rather to be with that group? I think yes, and I think that is the criteria. If I want to be healthy, I should stick with people who takes care of their health, who, by my observations, actually eat healthy. They eat healthy diet. They exercise a lot. And then I can go further. I should understand, okay, so I want to exercise. Do I want to do cardio more or I want to lift weights? If I do cardio more, I kind of list that criteria. If I want to do lift weights more, I created a little bit different criteria because if I want to learn how to lift weights and I want to be, a little bit pumped up and pump up my muscles, I probably would rather spend time and hang out with people who are doing maybe bodybuilding, who are maybe coaches and trainers and go to gym every single day, basically live in the gym. I would rather stick to those guys, and then everything what those guys do, it will definitely rub off on me, and now I will start doing that. Like that guy from the company, remember, who was working all the time and he could not do it any different because everyone else is doing that. So you gotta put yourself in that position. You gotta put yourself in the group which just do not give you any chance. Whether you stick with the group and do what the group does, or you leave the group because the group is too hot for you. It's 100 degrees and you only 40, right? So it's for you to decide. So that is example with your health, your wealth. Depending on what you want to create, what you want to be. If you want to be investor, let's say, if you want to understand how to multiply your money and learn that, you probably would rather spend your time with people who've done that already, who invest in different asset classes, in the stock market, in real estate market, and have real credible, kind of experience and credible results, and maybe 20, 30 years ahead of you, so you can hit it up by them. They probably like 1,000 degrees, guys, and you are like only 50 or 100, so you have the long way to go, but you want to be close to them because they're gonna hit you up as fast as possible, quicker than someone who is only, I don't know, like a couple of months or maybe a year ahead in front of you, right? So this is about wealth. How about love, relationships? Well, you would probably rather spend your time with someone who has built this beautiful family, who have kids, who knows how to, communicate with his wife or his partner or her husband and partner, right? Who've built this wonderful family, this nest egg, and who are super happy, who spend time with you, and you can also get it out of them. You see how they interact with each other. You see how they respect each other. You see how happy they are. You see what they do to be happy. They see what kind of details of their relationships they actually taking care about, and so on and so on and so on. So you probably want to spend time more with those family than, with bachelors who are partying all the time and do not on the way to create the this kind of relationships. And again, I have nothing against the having entertainment and having fun at party and being a bachelor. Nothing against bachelors, guys, but for the example's sake, if you want to create the family, if you want to understand how the true relationships are built, do you want to learn from the bachelor, or you want to learn from someone who has this beautiful family for, I don't know, a decade already, right, with the kids, and the kids are super happy, and you cannot just not see that. You see that all the time as soon as you meet with them. So you would rather spend more time with them rather than the bachelors, right? You can still spend time with them, but if you want to learn something out of the group and make sure the group hits you up, you probably would rather stick with that group, which is family oriented. Okay? What about the guys and group? If you want to become happy, if you want to become more fulfilled, if you want to grow, well, you probably have to find those people who are not stopping, who are learning machines, who are learning all the time, who are increasing, their knowledge every single day, who can also push you to actually read books, for example. You might find the people, if you want to start reading books, you would rather probably hang out with people who've read tons and tons of books and read, like, I don't know, one book a day, one book per 2 days, and you want to hang out with them because their skills, their attitude towards books will rub off on you, and you're gonna start doing that. You like it? Do you like it or not? That's how those self-selected groups are working. So that is the example of what kind of criteria and how you would actually, look at all those groups and create this criteria. And as soon as you have this criteria, guys, as soon as you got through that, list, you now are ready to select the group or build your own. All right? And that is going to be the part of your homework, guys. I literally do it in my Excel file. I just, open it up. I put all the things what I want out of that group. Basically, it's very aligned with all the things what I want out of life. What kind of outcomes and results am I expecting? And then I'm coming up with the criteria what this group should have in order to help me up to accelerate within those fields. All right? Okay. Now let's get to those two options which we have. The first one, as I already mentioned, we have to join existing group. I mean, not existing, but we have to switch in between the groups. How do we select them? Well, first what we do, we take this criteria, right? And we start to look around and we start to see what kind of groups are out there. And which of the groups, which of the people, their rules, their values, their standards, their behaviors are most matching that list of the criteria you have for yourself. And you would be, better off selecting and choosing this kind of group in order to join that, because you're gonna get the best and highest probability to succeed and being actually heated up by that group, right? How you do that, I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say you are developer in a company, you are programming the code, you're creating the software, you're creating the internal systems for your company. And I would guess, if I know that, by the way, let's experiment, as we go through that topic of how to join the groups. Let's experiment with our understanding a little bit. So if I'm the developer and I'm working in that company, can you guess what happens with me? Then the company kind of creates and organizes some kind of event where the whole company gathers together and do some kind of team building events together. And if no one pushes us to mix with each other, if I'm developer, where I'm spending most of my time during that event, whom do I spend most of my time with during that event? And you probably guessed it, 9 out of 10 people will spend their time with other developers, because that is self-selected group. Our programmers, because we have a lot in common, and that is a lot more convenient to just stand there or sit there and talk about the things we know and work every single day with, and with the people we have communicated a lot before, than just go and crash the party of someone who is the managerial position on the very top of the company, like CEO, COO, all those top managers, right? And that, by the way, depends on your goals. If you really wanna achieve a lot within this development team, and develop its skills, and you want to become one of the best developers out there, it might not be the bad thing. There is no bad and good. It depends what your goals are, and depending on your goals, what kind of group are you a part of right now. In this case, if your goal is to become the best developer out there, and you know the guys whom you're working with daily a lot better than you, then you rather obviously stay with them during this event, and you exchange this information and communicate and interact with them, so their skills rub off on you. But if you're a developer who want to start up their own company and start managing the company yourself, now you have different options, right? How hanging out with developers will help you? Well, it will help you to become a better developer, but it will not help you to become the managerial guy, to learn how to manage business, to actually expand your knowledge in business management, right? Anyhow, but if you now gonna step in and start having conversation with people from the managerial position, then in this case, you might succeed a lot faster, a lot quicker. So what you might do? Well, during that event, which is happening within your company, you might easily just, crash the conversation, or maybe just, be diplomatic and just join the conversation and join the circle of those people from the managerial positions, like CEO, COO, other top manager. Go get and talk to them, not necessarily about the business and the company, about other things, but just start communicating with them. Then maybe find out what they do together. Maybe some other events are happening they actually attending to, or maybe they have their own team and they play basketball or soccer or football with each other. Maybe try to get yourself there, and step by step, slowly but surely, you should deserve the credibility of you being worth to being kind of accepted in the group. It obviously does not happen like literally and officially, but on a subconscious level, that group usually checks you out and see whether you are the fit into that group. To be the fit, you have to use what? Pace. Pace yourself, pace that group, pace those people in the group, and get your way into that group by using that system, because you already know that, right? And that's how you join that group, guys. That's how it's happening. By the way, again, if you're a developer, I'm going to give you so many examples today, so hopefully you're going to get a good grasp of that topic, right? And by the way, if you are very good developer now, but you want to be the manager, right? And you have two choices. You want to hang out with, you might hang out and you have an opportunity to hang out with people who are project managers and product owners and they work within IT department, or you can hang out with CEOs and COOs, those top managers of the company. Which choice you're going to go with? Well, according to the formula, first what you need to do is you had to do the criteria matching. You got to take both groups, this top management and the product owners and product managers, and now you got to describe those groups. What is the current criteria of this group? What are this group is doing? What are they striving for? What are their values? What are the rules? What are the standards? What are their routines and habits and rituals, right? The same with the other group, which is like top managers. And now compare that criteria, that description which you put for those groups yourself, compared with the criteria of the group you want to be in. And whichever of those groups that matches the most, you want to be the part of. And in this case, obviously, if you want to be the top manager and start up the company and go within the company, you probably should join the topper group, which actually doing that right now, because the middle management position, and I don't have against that middle management position, again, nothing against, right? This is just for the example's sake, guys. But if you want to hang out with them, you will not go higher than just understanding the managerial kind of concept which is related around the IT department and specific of the IT. But for you, in order for you to build the company and be the CEO of the company someday, you gotta have the wider spectrum. So I guess, and I would guess in this situation, the criteria which matches the most would be the criteria of that group where the top management is. Following? All right. And as I said before, and I mentioned before, I want to mention it here, go deep, go wide, meaning think not only department wise, think city, think company, think country. Create the criteria for all these self-selected groups and understand whether they fit your criteria, and maybe based on that criteria you might want to change that. And by the way, some of those things happen with me. As you know, I lived in different countries. I was born in this little country named Latvia in Eastern Europe, but then I moved to Canada, and then I moved to United States, and then I moved back to Latvia, and then I moved back to the United States. So I was trying to find that self-selected group, and one of the criteria was matching the country I'm living in right now, which is US, and I love this country. Why do I do that? Why do I love that country? It's just because on a subconscious level, the criteria of that self-selected group I have put for myself, the list of the criteria matches with the criteria of this country the most. No other country can beat it. And this is an example of mine. How can you use this method, this vision, this approach to your life, to your different types and kinds of self-selected groups, create the criteria for them, and then decide which one of them you want to join the most. Make sense? I hope it does. Okay, we covered this first option, which is joining the group. Let's cover the second option, which is creating your own group. Who said you cannot create your own group? Well, if someone said that, that's not true. You can. You can and should. That's why I said there is not options 1 or 2 or second. It's 1 or 2 or it's an and. You gotta go with both options. You gotta join the better groups, and you gotta create your group on your own. How do you do that? Again, everything starts with the criteria. You already have the list with all that criteria, right? What do you do now? Well, now it has to do with the very tight social circle around you, which includes family, which include friends, very close people to you, to your current cycle. I mean social cycle, social group, self-selected group you are in right now, out of those very close people to you. And you gotta now describe that group. Put the criteria of your group, what kind of group you are in. And then you gotta match it up with the criteria which you wanted to be in. As a result, what you're gonna see is that some people of that group are those which on a subconscious level, without you even knowing, put those seeds in your head, which then put you in a position with the lower temperature. They are the ones who pull you down, and they are the ones of that old group of yours which you want to escape. On the other side, you're going to understand which of the people within this group you are in, of your close friends and family members, are the ones who actually hit you all the time, hit you up all the time, increase your temperature all the time, push you, pull you, and motivate you. So that group of people, the starting point of yours, it's going to be the starting group which you want to start to hang out with a little bit more often than the rest of people. Even if the rest of the group will include your mom, your dad, your siblings. And yes, guys, I understand. I'm very respectful to all the families. And I'm not suggesting that you have to abandon your family. No way. I'm just saying, if you want to accelerate your success in life, you gotta be very careful whom you communicate with, whom you interact with, and whom you spend the most time with, because that will literally determine your success in life and determine whether you're going to be able or not able to build the life of your dreams. And if you see clearly the people who pull you down, who with their rules, with their standards, with their ideology and vision actually are on your way to succeed, then you have to step by step, slowly but surely, at least it's my suggestion, try it and see what happens, kind of fade out and start spending less time with them. Don't abandon them, but spend less time with them. That is how you kind of pull yourself out of one group. And then you're starting spending more time with those people which you think contribute to your success and are the ones you want to build your success on their shoulders of giants, right? We got to choose the shoulders of giants we want to build our success on. I love that saying. And that is your starting group out of your very tight, self-selected current group related to your family, your family members. And that's how you create that. Once you start to do that, you are spending more time with them. The difference in between joining the groups or creating yourself is where you're creating yourself, you are the initiator, you are the organizer, and you are the orchestrator of that group. What I mean by that, in previous case where we were joining the groups were kind of already established. We just had to get our entrance through the entrance, and then we might participate in the life of that group. Here, you have a chance to create your own by first selecting out of your friends, out of your family, those who are the strongest one and can actually hit your temperature up to the 100 degrees, and then start hanging out with them more by being initiated, by actually initiating events in the circumstances where you will be able to spend the most of your time with that group of people. And you can do it differently. Like, you can invite them into your house, create some kind of party or events, table games, play poker, right? You can go fishing with them. You can come up with different kind of activities with the one goal to get those people together and spend as most time as you can with them. And their wisdom, their knowledge, their drive and energy will rub off on you. How do you expand the group? Well, you ask those same people, maybe next time to your next event, each of them bring one friend which might like this group. And most probably these people will bring those ones which also will contribute to the group, because if they are friends, they probably share those same values, ideologies, vision, rules, standards, behaviors, what they express themselves. So with the higher probability, you will be able to get into your own created group those people who will organically kind of become part of it and make the whole group perfect. Out of imperfect people, we're going to be creating the perfect group. And that is definition of the strong team, the trench mates, which will help you then win any battles on your way to win the whole war and creating the life of your dreams. Easy, right? I mean, it's easy and simple, and only two things can stay on your way is convenience bias, but now you know about it, so therefore you should not be impacted by that. And the second one, you got to overcome your fears of not being loved, or fear of being judged. Right? And again, you know how to break through them. You got to keep yourself in the peak state most of the time, and the fear is going to be gone, guys, right? So that is how you create yourself that group. And by the way, after that, you gotta maintain that group. You should not just look at this group and say, hey, that group is forever. First of all, your values might change with the time. Second of all, values of the members of the group might change. So by maintaining that group, I'm talking about you actually figuring out whether you're gonna keep people in that group or you wanna kick those people out of the group. And I'm not saying brutally kick the people out and being rude with them or something like that. No, nothing like that. Again, if you see some people which are becoming the poisonous to that group, you just start spending a little bit less time with them. Maybe invite them less into your, things which you organize, the team building kind of events and stuff like that. And at the same time, you spend a little bit more time with the other part of that group. And then again, let them invite more people in. And that's how you're going to take someone out and put someone in. It kind of, from one perspective, guys, might seem a little bit selfish. But at the same time, guys, isn't it selfish to stay in the group which is poor and then live the whole life being poor? I think it's selfish too. You just, you're being weak. You are selecting the easier way. The easier way. But they both are simple. Both decisions are very simple, but they're not easy. They're hard. But you are trying to select the easiest way if you want to go with the convenience bias and you want to select anything which is convenient. Nothing which is super convenient to you will get you where you want it to be in order to succeed in life and in order to get those outcomes and results out of life you want to get. Therefore, you want to join the groups which will hit you up, literally will pull you up, and you want to create the group which will do the same for you. And you have to maintain those relationships and see where they're going, just to make sure you can kind of be still the driver in that seat, and you can change the group, you can switch in between groups, and you can also kind of, restructure your own group which you are creating or have created already. Sounds good? I hope it does. And that process, guys, taking in your hands these two options and joining those groups, creating those criteria and creating your own group will let you be your own plan, will let you be your own creator of your own life, and you never ever gonna be someone else's plan. By understanding the power of self-selected groups and the power of group itself. All right? Okay, we come into an end, and I want to kind of conclude, and obviously we're going to, resume up the whole, step which we have talked about and kind of put it on a list, according to our tradition. But before I do that, let me say one thing. The whole course, A Shortcut to a Better Life, is about to share with you strategies, habits, rituals, teach you and strengthen your psychology in the way you find the most efficient and effective way in life to succeed. That's why I call it the shortcut. I want to help you to actually shave years and years off the learning curve. Shave years and years of this process of going through trials and errors, and actually get to your outcomes and results as quick as possible. Why do we want to do that? Is just because we want to make sure we make enough change to increase the quality of our life more rapidly. And I will give you the statistics which hopefully will stay in your mind and will dive deep into your mind, into your subconscious, and you're going to use it as a motivator. Guys, if you change your life, meaning you improve your life, all the areas of your life, by 1% a year, 1%, right? You have improved your health, wealth, love, happiness, fulfillment, all those good things which you count as a good life, which you describe as a good life. If you only change them, improve them, by 1%, you will be able to double quality of your life every once in 72 years. Only once, 72 years, you will be able to double quality of your life. Guys, I don't want you to wait for so long, because it's going to be too late. As soon as you're going to get there, you might get to those outcomes and results. First of all, the odds you're going to get there very low. Second of all, if you're still going to get there, you're going to be so old you will not be able to enjoy all those things which you will achieve, right? Makes sense? So therefore, I want you to change your life more rapidly. Another statistics for you. If you're going to improve your life, all the areas of your life, for 10% every single year, then you will be able to double your life every 7 years. That is already better, right? Every 7 years, you can double your life. You can double your health. You can double your wealth. You can double your love, your relationships, your feeling to be a feeling of happiness, feeling of fulfillment, and all those good things. You can double. Express this in double, right? Every 7 years. And here already, you might be able to enjoy them. Now I want you to enjoy them in fullest and as long as you can. So therefore, I offer and suggest you and I challenge you to change your life for the better and improve your life by 35% every single year. What that means, you will ask me? That means you will be able to double quality of your life every 2 years. Just imagine your life being improved twice, doubled once in 2 years. Every 2 years, you double quality of your life. What kind of life would you have? Why do I say that? It's just because that kind of life, that kind of rapid path towards that kind of life, and getting your outcomes and results as quick as possible through the shortcuts are only possible if you have that self-selected group around you. Those group of people you spend your most time with. Because as I said previously, and I mentioned previously in my steps, you are average in health, wealth, love, happiness, all those good and main core pillars of a good and dream life of yours. You will be average of those 5 people you spend the most time with. That is important of this step is just overwhelming, I would even say so, right? And that's why I want you to grasp it, and that's why I have given you so many examples today from my life, from life of others, to grasp it better and start working on your criteria, defining it, and start looking for those groups and joining those groups and creating a group on your own. Okay? All right. I hope it was very useful. Let's conclude. What did we learn today? Well, today we learned that there are such things as self-selected groups. And we have figured out and learned that an entire world basically is divided in those self-selected groups. And those groups share common things in between themselves, in between those members of the group. They share same rules, same results, ideology, same kind of behavior, and so on and so on. Different kind of criteria as we call them. And based on that criteria, that group lives its life, right? And it hits people within this group, up to particular temperature, if we are talking in comparison. Now, if we want to be heated up by 100 degrees, but we are now 72, we probably need to change that group. We need to be with someone whose skills, behavior, energy will rub off on us. And that is how we kind of switch from one group to another, and we go on the journey until we find those groups which are pulling us up, pushing us up, and accelerate our success. How to do that? Well, we have some difficulties on the way. We have our convenience bias. We have learned today that a convenience bias kind of pushes us and lets us, our subconscious actually lets us to choose something first which is most convenient, and we do something which is most convenient. Now we know that, and we gotta go against that. If we feel I'm doing that just because it's convenient, do something opposite. Do something which is inconvenient, because most probably it's gonna be something which will get you closer on changing your group and getting closer to people you want to hang out with, which you want to learn from. Okay? And next thing which can be on our way of actually accelerating our success within the group is our fears. The fear to not being loved or fear to being judged. That's why we do not want to kind of switch and change the group. For that, we use our peak state and we break through those fears and we still go and change and make those changes, and we make ourselves change as well. Not only we switch in between the groups, right? Now, next thing what we did is how to actually make sure we are within the group, which will help us to accelerate our success. And we have discovered two options. One of them is we have to join stronger groups, better groups with the criteria which we are expecting out of that group. And second of all, we have to build, and we have this opportunity to build our own. In order to do both of those things, we first need to create the list of the criteria which we expect out of that group, and then we do kind of evaluation process and matching the criteria with the criteria and description of the group we are looking at. And if they match, a lot of things overlap, will be better off joining that group, not the one where we have a little less kind of matching and mapping up of those criteria. Make sense? And last but not least, as I said, we are not able to do it on our own. The journey of life is too is long enough, is complicated enough, is difficult enough for us to build it on our own. We need a team around us, and I'm going to keep pounding on the table during this step and probably during the next step, and then we're going to get to the next chapter of the whole course. But I think this is the cornerstone of your success, and I cannot just skip through that briefly for you not actually getting the grasp about that topic and how serious that topic is. Okay? So that is the conclusion. And now last but not least, our homework, right? Okay. Write down with your notes what kind of homework you gotta go through, because it's not over yet. As soon as you understood this now, I hope you know what to do. Now you have to execute. Remember, knowledge without execution is nothing, is worthless, it's not going to help you. But if you don't do, it's not going to do you any good. So let's go through the homework. What do I want you to do? Well, first and foremost, create that list. Create that list of the criteria which you want that particular group you want to be looking at to have. And using that criteria, the criteria out of all your core and main pillars of your dream life. The ones you have created during that step, life design, which we call life designing and planning system. Go through that homework of that step. See what kind of core pillars of your life have you defined for yourself. Take those pillars, take those main and core categories of your dream life, and now for each of that category come up with the criteria. And criteria is basically, what do you want out of it, how do you want it to be, basically those same things which you have already defined for yourself. What do you want? Only maybe rephrase it a little bit and put it in a little bit different description kind of way to actually make sure that sounds and looks like criteria, not something you only want. Okay? As soon as you got that, this is the first task. The second task, start evaluation process. First, evaluate all those groups, social groups, the groups at your work, your family, your community, maybe you are playing on some kind of team. Take all those groups and try to evaluate the criteria which you have for yourself versus the criteria, not versus, but with the criteria which you now can find within each of those groups, and see how are they matching, and start to figuring out whether maybe it is time to improve those groups and to join more stronger groups, to join other groups. If so, create the plan. How are you going to do that? How are you going to fade out of that group you are in right now? And what are the ways you're going to use to join those other groups? And first, obviously, create the criteria for that other group. What is that better criteria that group should have, in order to qualify for you to join them and actually leave this current group you are in? All right? The next thing, that was the second. The third thing what you do now, use that criteria which you have previously created for yourself in the perfect case scenario which you would like to have. Use that criteria on your family members, on your friends, on your very close people to you, and try to figure out which of them are pulling you down and which of them are actually pushing you up, pulling you up. Then figure out what is your plan, whether you agree with me and you're going to spend less time with the people who pull you down, and figure out the organic and balanced way how to do that, and then make a plan how you're going to now initiate and organize different kind of events to get closer to those people who are actually pulling you up. And then create the plan, and that was the third. The fourth, create the plan for all of it. Create the strategy, create the list of the things you need to do for that to happen, and then follow that plan. It's a massive action plan. Go through that same exercise we went through during that step where we have discovered our life designing system and we used our life designing system. Create this RPM, create this map, massive action plan for self-selected groups, for creating a self-selected group, for joining new self-selected group, and to getting rid of this convenient bias, or controlling this convenient bias and controlling your fears and breaking through the fears which might be on the way of you changing group or creating your new group. And last but not least is probably going to be the fifth, right? Try to look at your past. We're going to reflect a little bit, right? And see what kind of decision have you made, with different kind of areas of your life. Business, relationships, friends, health, and all those main core pillars of your dream life. What kind of decisions, maybe wrong decisions or bad decisions have you made? And now you actually understand those decisions were not made on your conscious level as you thought before, but they actually were made on your subconscious level by your subconsciousness pushing on you that criteria of the group you were a part of back then when you made those decisions. Again, you would ask me, why should you do that? Is just because we want to learn what? Patterns, exactly, patterns of your behavior. You're gonna see what kind of patterns of your behavior you had back then while, going through those wrong or bad decisions, as we call them. And then you're gonna be able to learn how not to do. And now you're gonna be able to more efficiently and effectively, first of all, create this criteria for the perfect case scenario, for the perfect selected group. And second of all, you're gonna be able to find, better, stronger those self-selected groups of yours, which you want to join, and you will make less mistakes because you reflected on your past and you understood what have gone wrong. Sounds good? All right, guys, as I said, that step kind of went freely and quick, I don't know, from my side. Hopefully I gave you enough information and enough knowledge and understanding to actually grasp that topic, and hopefully I also showed you how important that step is. And as you see, and I told you and I promised you that every single step, first of all, complement each other, but second of all, they all super important. I could not just pick one and say, hey, you need to know that. Although each of them have huge value, but all of them together is just explosion. It's explosion of something which will, supply you with and equip you with all necessary tools to create that momentum, and even after the course, keep going and building the life of your dreams and expanding this wheel of your life and making it smoother and smoother. Okay? All right. Thank you, guys. It's enough out of me today. Do your homework, select your groups, get your criteria going, start looking and matching and evaluating, and start creating your own ones. It's fun. Create those events, invite those people, invite the friends of your friends, and start creating this beautiful self-selected group of yours. Name it, create the name for it so it's juicier, it's kind of triggers beautiful emotion of yours, and then you're going to have enough energy to actually complete this step, complete the homework, and literally create the self-selected group of your dreams. Not only build the life of your dreams, which, by the way, that group will help you to then, if that is the dream kind of power group, that power group will help you to create your power and life of your dreams. All right? Okay, I talk to you soon on the next step. Take care.